Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. Today, we're breaking down the non-roster invitee list. Spring training's right around the corner, and we want to get a look at who's going to be there. Plus, Alex talked with Mike Wilson, a beat writer from Tennessee who covered Tony Vitello's whole career with the Volunteers. Get to know Tony from one of the guys who knows him best. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Mancini Sleep World is kicking off the year with their President's Day sale, where you can save up to $1,200. Mattresses start at incredible prices, like Beauty Rest Queen mattresses starting at just $299. Plus, you can get 0% financing for up to 60 months, including on Tempur-Pedic, with payments starting as low as $29 a month. To get started, visit sleepworld.com. All right, Alex, we've got a big list of names of who we're going to see in Scottsdale.
No coaches. It's not a list of coaches?
No, it's not a list of coaches. I think we're going to be a week or two into the season and still not have an official list of coaches.
I'm going to stand in a third base box on the first day and just.
No one would know. There's no proof that you're not a coach at this point.
Quarter zip joggers. Like, there's no proof that, I can get away with it. That will be it. So,
I mean, my dad said he doesn't know what to do on opening day since he's not broadcasting. I'm going to tell him to just linger in the dugout and no one will know.
Honestly, bench coach. There you go.
Here we go.
So, it's only February 4th. We have a non-roster list though, so that's
we do
something to talk about. Like, guys who will be in Scottsdale.
Guys who we're going to see in Scottsdale. I don't think there's any major surprises here, but it's going to be fun to go down the list. There's one or two names in particular that I'm pretty excited could get a shot. Now, how realistic of a shot, we can tackle that on the back end of this discussion, but it's still cool.
Yeah, it's huge for these guys, first of all. I mean, especially the younger guys who have not been in big league camp before. Like, they're going to spend at least 2-3 weeks in big league camp, and stranger things have happened. I mean, I still remember my early years when Gregor Blanco in a scrimmage were just like, who is this guy? And he just looked like he was ready-made to be on the team, and we know how that turned out. But I think especially the relievers, this is key for them. And then a couple of young guys we'll talk about. But I want to start with the pitchers. I'll just go through it. It's Will Bednar, Michael Fulmer, who is lots of big league experience, like 265 big league appearances. 2016 American League Rookie of the Year as a starter.
Wow.
The Detroit Tigers. So it was a long time ago, and a lot has happened, and he's been with a million teams since. But he had surgery a couple years ago, was mostly in AAA last year, appeared with the Cubs and Red Sox. But this is the old, like, anytime you see a guy who probably had a couple other options to try to go to camp and make a bullpen, I would guess that our conversation with him that first day is he's going to be like, the Giants were aggressive. The Giants came in hard, talked to me about the opportunity. Just his experience alone puts him in an interesting spot. Like, he has been a closer before. I'm not saying he'll be the closer for this team, but if you're looking at guys who probably have a leg up going into camp just based on experience, I think he's at the top of the list, and we'll see how many spots end up being open and what kind of camp he has and what he looks like. I mean, he was in AAA all of last year and didn't really force the issue too much. So we'll see what happens here, but that one stood out. Trent Harris has been in the Giants system. He's somebody who I think we talked about last year, maybe the year before, as he was starting to be interesting. So he's a guy that they've liked for a while. Caleb Killian, we talk about a lot. He is remembering some guys like
Staple.
Staple. He was in the Chris Bryant trade, and he is back now. Nick Margevicius, we talked about in December. Happened right around Christmas. Left-hander. They obviously need left-handers. I also think he's maybe, I don't want to say responsible, but when we talked about the guys who are ahead of Kai Teng, like, this is another guy with big league starting experience. So potentially could be in that mix down the line. Wilkin Ramos, Juan Sanchez, who's a lefty, so that makes him important. And then Gregory Santos, another guy we know. He came up with Camilo Doval, Kervin Castro. Santos was nasty, like heavy sinker. And I just think he's had some success in the big leagues. He's another guy who's really interesting to me just because he's been been around a little bit and has good stuff and has some big league experience. So
yeah, you look to see a second stint guy, you know?
Yeah. Maybe it'll work out for him. So it's worked
Yeah.
out for a lot of other guys, but the guys with experience stand out. And then obviously Will Bednar, former first round pick, lots of injuries, has struggled in the minor leagues. Last year, it was like probably around August. Somebody who had been in to see AAA was like, "Have you seen Bednar recently?" And I went and watched some of it, and just an uptick in velocity. His upper 90s now as a reliever. I thought there was a chance he could pitch his way to the point where maybe they want to protect him in the Rule 5. I mean, the pedigree is there, obviously.
Mhm.
They didn't end up doing that. He didn't end up getting selected, but he's in big league camp. And oh, what a story it would be if one of these first rounders, so much has been made of the first round picks under Farhan Zaidi who did not work out. And Will's obviously not a starter anymore, but his brother has been a very good reliever in the big leagues, and he'll have a shot here the next couple of years, I think. If he can sustain that velocity, be in the zone a little bit more, it's premium stuff. And, it's first round pedigree. And he pitched against Tony in college. So
Yeah.
He's going to be really interesting in camp, I think.
He's one of the guys I really have my eye on. I've been waiting for it to click for Will Bednar. And how cool would it be if somehow he just balled out in Scottsdale and we got to have a brother versus brother opening day?
Yeah. I forgot he's in New York now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the opportunity is there. I mean, we don't know exactly. It is the one spot on the team where it's hard to know how they feel about some of these guys. And it's a whole new staff. And, it reminds me a little bit of when Bob Melvin came in and he was just like, Sean Jelly dominated the Padres when I was there. And that guy's nasty. And I want him in my bullpen. And he was tough for us to game plan for. Tony Vitello and his pitching coaches and this front office, they've had a few months now to look at this list and look at who's there. We don't know if they look at Spencer Rivens and go, that could be the eighth inning guy, or if they look at him and go, we need some competition. Like we don't know how they view. We think Ryan Walker's the front runner to be the closer. But these other right-handers who are there, I mean, it's going to be a camp competition for the most part. And
yeah,
I think there's a chance, like a guy like Bivens, it's a fresh start for you. Like you've been in the big leagues now last year, and there's a chance to have a good camp and really solidify yourself. But that same goes for the newcomers, and same goes for Bednar and Fulmer and Santos and everybody on this list.
Yeah, you have to imagine with a fresh coaching start, you get a more unique look than you would with someone who's known you for years.
Yeah, it's a fresh slate really for everybody. So that's why I talk about guys who have been there, who have a chance to maybe get a new role, and guys who have not been there, who have a chance to pitch themselves onto this roster. It really is like the weakness of this roster right now is the bullpen, and they continue to not address it. So you can go back to November, and I've talked about it here a lot because Giants officials have said the same thing to me over and over again. Minor league deals, non-roster guys, young guys, that is going to be how we put together a bullpen next spring. So we're a week away now from the start of a real competition for these guys.
Here's the list of guys.
Here's 8. You throw in Birdsong and Tidwell and McDonald and all the guys who have been there, and then Evans and Miller and Gage and everybody who's on the 40-man, and they're going to need 8 by the end of March. So, but I think I'm actually a little surprised we haven't seen anyone and maybe somebody will this last week or so, but there's a real opportunity to come in here and I think be the eighth inning guy or the closer pretty quickly if you're.
You're a free agent or just looking to end up somewhere. The Giants do seem like a landing spot where you could get the innings, and especially if you're looking to prove yourself, earn a deal next offseason, which knowing what's going on next offseason, maybe that's a disaster in the making. But you know what I mean. It's a spot where you could get space.
And a lot of those guys did well early in free agency, but it's a real. For me, it's the biggest thing we're going to talk about this spring, other than the obvious Bryce Eldridge and some of these prospects and Tony, of course, but Luis Arias, the newcomers. But for me, the biggest just daily thing is who looks good in the bullpen. And the interesting thing about spring training is it's really hard to judge starting pitchers because they're throwing 1 inning and then 2 innings and then 4, and it's just not a great environment. I think it's really hard to judge hitters for the most part because you could see a guy who goes 2 for 3, and it turns out his 2 hits came late in the game against like a double-A pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
But relievers, a lot of them for the most part, like they're gonna, especially the guys who are in position to potentially make the team, they're gonna get a shot to pitch early in games against big league hitters, and pretty quickly sometimes you can be like, that guy, like Santos may show up and we're just like, that guy like is ready to go, or Fulmer or Bednar or somebody. So
yeah. All right. After the bullpen, what do you want to do? Catchers?
Yeah, I mean the catcher, we know they have their starter. We know Suzak's a Rule 5 pick, so he has that advantage. But you need catchers in camp. Logan Porter is the incumbent. Eric Haas, a few weeks ago he signed, and then Diego Cartaya, he signed last year. He briefly played in their minor league system. He's interesting just because he was legitimately a top 20 prospect.
Yeah, wasn't he the number 1 international prospect with the Dodgers?
He was their number 1 prospect for a couple of years. The classic Dodger thing. This guy who's all of a sudden number 17 on every prospect list.
Sprouted out of nowhere.
Where did this come from? I think we had a mailbag question, and I can't find it now. Somebody may have asked, and I forgot to put it in here, but I had a question about the Dodgers on prospect lists, and it is talked about within the industry too, of like, how are there 5 or 6 of these guys every year? And quite often they don't pan out. But this was one of them. I mean, he was a very, very good prospect. Consensus like top 20 guy. I think he was number 14 on MLB Pipeline's list. So the talent's there. He just hasn't hit in AAA. So
if he could get that together, it would be a real, extra cherry on top of a win there to, reclaim and fortify a former Dodgers top prospect.
Yeah, it's a little extra like motivation for everybody internally. Like, can we figure it out with this guy? I mean, he really has struggled at AAA at the plate, but it's still young, and the pedigree's off the charts. So
yeah. All right, keeping our eye on him. What about the infield?
This is where I think a couple guys stood out. It's Basabe, Furman, Buddy Kennedy, Parks Harbor, and Jake Holton. That's the infield list. Basabe was with the Giants previously. Couple guys. Nate Furman, I don't think has ever mentioned on this podcast, but all he has done in his entire life is reach base. He was the player to be named later in the Alex Cobb trade, which looks excellent because it was also Jacob Bresnahan, who's one of their better pitching prospects right now. And it was Giants are going nowhere, put Alex Cobb in position to maybe make the postseason. Nate's 24 years old. He bats left-handed. I've never seen him play. I mean, he hasn't played a whole lot for the Giants. There were some injuries. I think talking to some people about him today, there are some defensive questions. There's no power, but 413 on base percentage in the minors, was 482 in college, 490 in Eugene last year in 21 games, 486 in nine games with Richmond, more walks than Ks in the minors, and 50 stolen bases in 58 attempts. So it is this like classic. This might be your new Meckelhead choice.
This is the guy?
A different type, but an infielder who just reaches base at insane clips. And there are other things he doesn't do, but you see those on-base percentage numbers, it's going to stand out. And so I'm just curious to see what kind of camp he has and what he looks like.
Didn't they just do a 1-year signing for an infielder who reaches base at unknown clips?
He can just stand behind Luis Arias for a.
Yes, it's perfect. They just kind of put them in a room together, teach them everything Arias knows.
One of them's like, I walk all the time. The other one's I single all the time. Yeah, I don't know. We really just don't know a whole lot about him because he has not been like a top prospect and was a player to be named later in a trade. But you look at the numbers, they stand out. And then Parks Harbor is maybe the fastest rising Giants prospect. They got him in the Camilo Doval trade, tore up the Arizona Fall League. OPS was at like 1,200. He's listed as an infielder on their NRI list, which technically is correct. He is a corner infielder. I have to imagine we're going to see him taking fly balls pretty early in camp. And there is no room on this roster for a first baseman. There's no room down the line for a first baseman. There's no room for a third baseman, but there's a lot of room for a corner outfielder who can hit down the line. And look, they're set in the outfield right now, but there will be a time that comes when they're ready for a corner outfielder if he keeps developing this way. So, really good fall. He's just one of those prospects who's getting better and better and better. And I think we talked about him at the trade deadline. He had been old for his level, but at some point you catch up. Like if you move quickly, all of a sudden you're not like the older guy in A ball. You're just a normal guy in Double A, which I think he'll be there, if not to start the year, pretty quickly. So yeah, I know Giants fans are pretty familiar with him at this point, but he's gonna. I would imagine he's gonna get a long look here in camp.
Looking at the list of infielders here, I feel like we've talked a lot about just the wealth of shortstops coming down the pipeline, and this isn't them. When do you think the non-roster invitee list starts to get shortstop heavy with that group? Is that still next 2 year. Years or so out? Just next year?
Well, are we going to have spring training next year? I don't know.
Well, great point. Spring training in July.
And if we do, is it going to be a shortened one where there's like, you don't want to waste a 20-year-old's time? No, I think a normal year, I'd say next year we're going to start seeing a couple of these guys because it's similar to what they did with like Marco, and like you want your prospects to get a taste of big league life. So yeah, right now this is kind of a group of like, and they're also set at the big league level. So yeah, they're two set. I mean, Christian Koss is your sixth infielder right now. Tyler Fitzgerald, we don't know what his deal is. So this is a group of guys who I think is filling in at AAA for now, and you need those guys over the course of a year too.
Yeah. All right. One more category. Let's talk outfielders.
Yeah, it's three guys: Victor Barracoto, Bo Davidson, Jared Oliva. Davidson's obviously the standout here.
Yeah, probably the standout on the whole list.
Yeah, I hadn't realized Baseball America listed him third on their Giants top 30. So he's always in that top range. But he's third on theirs. He was fifth by MLB Pipeline last year. He's getting some top 100 love. You can go back to Randy Wynn when he was on here a few weeks ago, talked about what he does well. But right now, as center fielder, he has really had a nice start to his minor league career. There's a lot of positive projection there, I think, with him and what he's capable of. And he is, to me, like, you know, this is a chance to prove that you might be able to help him later this year or just get comfortable with some of these guys because he's not too far away now. I mean, he was in Double A and I'm sure he's going to start back in Double A. But there's just not a whole lot, especially once they get through camp here and have to figure out what to do with Matos and Encarnacion. Like, it's not like it's a loaded. They've gotten rid of all their outfielders, right? Like they had to get rid of Marco. They had to get rid of Wade Meckler. Grant McRae's still around, but I think he has a real opportunity to move faster this year than they want to move most guys. And maybe be in that mix later this year. And if not, next spring, probably, if all goes well for him, you're pushing for a big league job.
Yeah. So there's the list of names. I guess the big question would be what number of slots are being filled by these guys on the opening day roster. And then obviously which of these guys is most likely to fill those slots. Obviously, who knows the springs they'll have, who knows injuries that could happen, who knows any more signings or invitations that get sent out. But with the information we have now, who do you think ends up on the team?
I think we'll see one pitcher break from this group and make the bullpen because I think they believe that some of these young guys can help him in the bullpen, but you don't necessarily want to like make that move right away with a lot of these guys. And they're just going to need bullpen help. And so if you're, I'd be surprised if they're like, hey, Birdsong, McDonald, like get in that bullpen. And that's your path right now. Because you also want guys who are ready in AAA to help out with the rotation when you need it. So I would guess that one of these, we'll know a lot more in like 2 weeks when we have a better idea too of like how the coaching staff feels about some of the incumbents and health-wise, how like an Eric Miller's doing. Everything has gone well for him, but it was a rough second half for him last year. But I think over the course of camp, just the usual camp injuries, camp soreness, I think one of these guys will break through. And other than that, I mean, the catching competition probably is I think probably mostly different guys. Outfield, we know it's going to come down to like who do you cut. Infield, they're set. So
Yeah.
position player side, I think they're pretty well set. But on the pitching side, there is room there for someone to have a huge camp and sneak into the bullpen.
All right. Keeping an eye on the bullpen throughout spring training, of course. There's your non-roster invitee list. It's only going to be a few weeks at this point until we can see some of these guys playing in Arizona, in Scottsdale during spring training, and I'm stoked. We're right around the corner.
Yeah. 2.5 weeks till the first game. So
2.5 weeks. Alex, let's do a little bit of remembering some guys before we get to mailbag questions and your interview with Mike Wilson. Kind of like half of these remembering some guys are guys the Giants were tied to this offseason, whether officially or dubiously. But we'll start out with Brendan Donovan, who ended up being part of a big 3-way trade rather than get traded to the Giants.
Brendan Donovan, thank you for 2 months of content here. Really thought you were going to be a Giant.
Yeah, and the longer it didn't happen, it just seemed like nearing 100% chance that they would just hang on to him in St. Louis.
Yeah, the 3-way trade angle here makes it a little harder to do this straight up. Like, so is this like Wisenhunt and Davidson, and because you have another team that Tampa got a guy and they sent some guys out, and you don't know, like, would they have liked Casey Schmidt the same way they liked the guy they got? Makes it a little bit harder. Seemed like St. Louis did. Generally, people thought they did well. It does when you see the way it ended up, you can kind of understand a little bit why maybe the Giants weren't fully able to line up and they had to go the Tampa direction and add a third team so St. Louis could totally get what they wanted. But Brendan Donovan, good. He's one of those random guys that now I think we're going to be following all year because we're just going to be like, what could have been?
Oh, absolutely. We've talked about him so much that 6 years from now, I'll hear his name and be like, was he a Giant? I feel like he was a Giant.
You're going to feel like he was a Giant.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than him, Framber Valdez signed a massive deal in Detroit.
Scott
Harris, scooping him up 3 years, $112 million. Have to say, not surprised the Giants weren't part of that one at that number.
We have not talked about him a whole lot, and that was on purpose, just because I'd never heard his name. I just
I think I saw one tweet or post or something in the last week and a half from some source saying that there were talks.
Not a great source.
No, apparently not.
And well, just like I just. There were reports in November that they met with him at the GM meetings. I heard that was false. Just not a name that came up a whole lot. Now, ultimately, kind of like the contract. Especially when it's going to be another one I think that's interesting for us to follow because you could put their pitching contracts that they ended up giving out and the Arias deal together and get pretty close to here on a year-to-year basis. Or for a 2026 specifically, and just go, would you rather have Valdez and Birdsong and Casey Schmidt? I think a lot of people probably would have done that.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of deals it's always like those 6-7 year deals that teams hate for pitchers. And I never blame them for hating them, but if this is going to be the way for some of these guys, if some of these guys are going to sign the 3-year deal, to put that guy with Logan Webb for the next 3 years,
get in on it,
would have been nice.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
It's a lot of money, per year.
Yeah, almost 40 a year.
Yeah, but it doesn't end up becoming the $230 million deal that.
Yeah.
And if you assume health, for the first couple of years, you're probably ending up okay. So I don't hate that deal.
Elsewhere to be remembered, Will Wilson and Jackson Reitz ended up in Seattle. And Aaron Sanchez signed with the Royals, and Marco Luciano made it to the Yankees AAA system. He was outrighted.
Finally made it through. He has a home. So
he's good for him. Hey, maybe we'll see him on opening day.
Yeah, maybe he has a huge spring.
Yeah.
Aaron Sanchez, greatest, like, I don't even, what was it, tryout? Whatever he did, that the Giants were like, that's our guy.
Yeah, we love him.
Greatest of all time, and then did not work out. Yeah. So, I bet there's a lot of people who are listening, and they're like, I don't even remember the Aaron Sanchez era.
You mean Aaron Sanchez from Chopped or Top Chef or whatever?
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to our mailbag questions, Alex, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. At Mancini Sleep World, every purchase is backed by Mancini's Rest Easy Promise, which includes a 365-night comfort guarantee. Try your mattress for a full year. If it's not the right fit, they'll make it right. Free next-day delivery and old mattress removal. Buy today, sleep better tomorrow with no extra cost. And a best price guarantee. If you find a better deal, they'll beat it. To get started, visit sleepworld.com. Okay, Alex, mailbag questions. Before we get into our questions, I'm going to start out with the non-question. I feel like maybe I'm opening a can of worms here by encouraging this type of question, but we're going to start with a mailbag complaint from Zach. Zach says, stop gaslighting us about emergency podcasts. Verizon and Bader don't prompt one. That emergency podcasts don't exist.
First of all,
are we taking this personally, or was this justified us being lazy?
If you have a great complaint, feel free. So we'll mix we'll mix those in. This is a valid complaint, I think. Fair point. I will also say two things. One, both of us have personal lives, so sometimes we're not necessarily sitting around on Saturdays in January, like waiting for news to break. So that was part of this, I think, at least with Arias.
I will also pepper in. We were, I think, scheduled to be doing one podcast a week throughout the offseason, and we decided to go to two. So we're bonus contenting all over the place this offseason.
Well, because we have a loyal fan base.
That's right.
We love you guys, and you numbers are good. So we're like, let's just keep rolling.
Let's keep going.
My second point here is I went back and looked. We did 4 emergency podcasts in 2025, which seems about fair.
Can I try to pull what those 5 are?
Yes.
Obviously, Rafi Devers. Managerial change, Bob Melvin. Yeah. Oof. Oh, we did the live one with Rich Aurelia for Jeff Kent.
We did that.
And that's all I got.
Trade deadline, Tyler Rogers got
traded. Yes. So yes, of course.
I think I think that's a proper amount of emergency podcasts for a calendar year.
Especially for a 500 teams calendar year.
For a 500 team that spent no money in the offseason. Yeah. So I think I'm going to defend ourselves. I don't know that.
Fair.
When this started, we were like, when we started joking around about this, it was like Carlos Correa signed. Oh wait, Carlos Correa did not sign. Oh wait, Carlos Correa is a Met. So we're doing back to back emergency podcasts.
We got years worth of emergency podcasts out in like a 2-week span.
But those were also like mega stories. So no offense to the guys who have signed recently, but we used to have a very high bar for when we would come off our usual schedule.
I think the closest I've been to I feel really bad we did an emergency podcast for that was Blake Snell's no-hitter.
That we didn't do one?
We didn't. I was in the city. I think I was seeing Trevor Noah do stand up, and you were doing, and we were like, it's Blake Snell. We're still on the fence if we even like this guy.
I think that was the only night that summer that we had a babysitter for our kid and went to see. I don't remember what movie we saw. There's just going to be nights where I'm like, nope.
Not happening.
Yeah. Also, Blake Snell doesn't care if we did an emergency podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Zach. Send your mailbag complaints the same place you send your mailbag questions. Our first question is from Jeremy. Jeremy says, I'm curious as to your thoughts on potentially moving Eldridge to left field, even as a temporary situation and maybe a platoon with Ramos. and shift him in and out of DH to keep consistent at bats and bring back Dom Smith?
I don't think it would be Dom related, and especially now with Arise here, like that's just too many left-handed similar types. So I will say, and I don't think it'll be this year, I don't think the book is closed on down the line, this being like part of the deal with him.
Interesting.
I know there's some Giants people who are like, might be able to. It didn't go well when they put him in right field originally, but he was fresh out of high school and, trying to learn something new. So I don't think the book is closed on this down the line, especially now that Devers is here, but would be very surprised if we see it anytime soon.
Is there any way we can bring Brandon Belt out to be teach a tall first baseman how to play outfield coach?
This is why I don't think the book is closed, because I've seen Brandon Belt just go stand out there. I've seen Travis Ishikawa. I would guess if he gets comfortable at some point, they're going to be like, let's take some fly balls in the left just in case.
Yeah. All right. Great. Chris says, is it possible with the Arise signing being a single-year deal that the Giants are already having conversations in the front office about making a more major second base signing next year? My thought immediately goes to Horner, who may have had too high of a trade cost, but will be a free agent at the end of the season.
It's possible, and I'm sure we're going to have Horner conversations a year from now. All the same things that made it make sense as a trade piece would make sense as a free agent. I would say two things. One, Willie is probably going to have to move off short at some point, and the rest of the infield is kind of spoken for, which really just leaves one position for him if he, at some point during that deal, has to move off short. And then the second thing I would say is they have a bunch of prospects on the way, and one of them might end up being a second baseman, or two of them. So
they have middle infielders coming.
Yeah. So
also,
I think a couple of them, like Gavin Colleen and Johnny Level, probably are going to end up being second basemen. So
yeah.
I don't know that they would want to go out this offseason or next offseason and lock that up for years to come.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, at some point, the infield getting younger. We've got Bryce Eldridge coming. Who knows where he ends up? Yeah. But we've talked about how as these contracts get older, get towards the back end of them, they could start to hurt a little. And it would be great to be pairing some of these older infielders with, alongside younger players.
Yeah. Let's see where some of these guys end up, but like Johnny Level's moving fast. So
yeah.
Or he was moving fast last year.
Nick says, I've seen Aces request a preferred catcher. Do you think Webb has the status or would even think about requesting a preferred second baseman when he pitches, considering Luis Arias' questionable defensive ability? I think we talked about how Webb induces the most ground balls to second of any pitcher in the big league. So this isn't the most out-of-pocket question from Nick.
Does he have the status? Yeah.
He definitely has the status. Does he have the personality to?
I think they're gonna see how this plays out, I would guess, and see, like, what if he's also 4 for 5 on opening day behind him? Like, maybe not, because Max Fried is probably starting, but what if he's hitting just every single time Logan's out there, Mr. one run of support all of a sudden has a little bit more support. So it won't be as much of a conversation point.
It's also the preferred catcher thing has always felt more like I really like guy A and not I really dislike guy B.
Yeah.
And framing it like this, like I don't trust your defense, very much feels like I dislike guy B.
I do think we just really need to see what it looks like. And there's been so much made of this the last week. We really just need to see what it looks like. And he was adamant he wanted to be a second baseman. And so let's see what the offseason of work looks like and how playable he is out there.
Hey, we got Ron Washington.
Yeah.
James says, I think just as important, the Giants need to figure out ways to win games without relying on the big hit or just leaning on the bullpen or the starter to maintain leads. This formula keeps failing us. We need to get dirty and unorthodox. I would like to see a different brand of baseball played this coming season. What does that look like? I think the answer is it looks like college baseball.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave this. I did ask Mike, who's coming up, about what Tony's team's what their brand of play was. So I'll leave that. Listen to the interview about how Tony's
All
team
right.
played. But I do think they want some. You don't have to read between the lines too much of Buster's quotes and some of what's been said about. They want to be a little grittier, a little bit tougher, a little bit nastier.
Yeah.
We'll see some of that.
WWMB says, I have a Casey question. Wondering if the team is just particularly down on his bat. There were a lot of justifications for Fitzgerald last year that second base is such a low bar for offense, but Casey doesn't seem to have the benefit of the doubt. He's such a good defender. I'm wondering why they weren't willing to give him a chance instead of going with Arias, a notably terrible defender.
Yeah, we haven't talked to Buster yet about what specifically. And my main question is just kind of what, regardless of Arias, like there was Donovan, there was Horner, there was Abrams. Like what made second base so important, I guess, to try to upgrade there. I will say also that even though I would have been totally fine with Casey Schmidt and you would have been totally fine with Casey Schmidt, and we talked about it 42 podcasts in a row, like he has been inconsistent in the big leagues. And I think he's come a long way in terms of especially the way he controls the strike zone. But he has been inconsistent, and there were times last year defensively where he could have been better. So, that was part of this as well. And I think he put, I talked to him at FanFest. He lost about 10 pounds to try to be a little bit lighter out there. And to be fair to him, like he's a good third baseman and should be playing really good third base defense for somebody somewhere. But I think that's part of it, is there's been some inconsistency there the last few years.
All right. Last question before we get to your interview with Mike Wilson. Scott says, as my boys would say, the nothing like it slogan is chuggy. If you could, what slogan would you choose? I like the idea of using Kruko's line, we are SF, we are Giants. Alex, I need to start out with, you have a Gen Z, Gen Alpha child. What does chuggy mean?
He hasn't dropped that one on me yet. So
okay.
I feel like I knew what this meant 10 years ago.
Does it mean like tacky?
I guess. I don't know.
That's context clues are telling me tacky.
Okay. We've reached do you want an Urban Dictionary? Is that
Yeah. If you want to filibuster
we've reached the point where we're like getting a little older, so certain things don't resonate with us. It's my understanding that there's going to be a new marketing campaign this year, where that was the plan. I think it'll be revealed probably in late March, Media Day and all that. That would be my guess. I don't know what they're doing, but there's a lot of room for growth.
That is a diplomatic way of putting it.
I guess I would be really careful. I think they've done some slogans that were very easily turned the wrong way when they ended up being 81 and 81.
Yes.
So I would be more on the side of like, I don't know if I'd choose this one, but Kruko's line, that's just more, it's a little bit easier when you've lost 7 out of 8 or something like that. So
I would just make it, we're so back. And then when they go on a losing streak, you can rip it off and we're so over. Just make that the slogan.
What was it? Nothing like it? That was
nothing like it. It doesn't get more SF. They're all so easy to be used sarcastically. They just have to find something impossible to be used sarcastically.
It was just really easy to flip around. Yeah, that would be my main focus, is just don't have something that can be used sarcastically if you're 81 and 81 again. So,
and I do have an update for you. Chuggy is used to describe someone or something that is uncool, unfashionable, or stuck in a 2010s trend cycle. It often mocks millennial aesthetics like skinny jeans. Coined in 2013, it became popular in 2021. Now, with the Giants World Series all happening in the 2010s, and the Giants very much feeling like we are stuck in the 2010s, reliving that and focusing on the success from back then. Yeah, I guess we're kind of a chuggy team.
We can think about this one for a few weeks and maybe come up with our own. I'd go with something that would just be very hard to be sarcastic about. So, yeah. And what was the one that Gabe came up with? Game Up? Was that?
Oh, was that it? Yeah.
Game Up?
That sounds right.
Yeah. There's been it's been hit and miss. So
yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear they're doing a new one. Like, I'm looking forward to that.
That's what I heard last year, because didn't they use the same one for like 3 years in a row?
They did,
So,
yes. And the memes just kept flowing.
Yeah. I remember one time I was trying to find a Nothing Like It logo, and the first thing I saw on Google Images was Nothing to Like. I'm like, oh, that's tough.
Yikes.
There must be like testing on these things. Like they should honestly get, like, there's the teenage Giants fans who
the snarkiest of Giants social media, hand it to them and be like, the Giants just blew a 7-run lead in the 9th.
Yes.
What do you tweet with this image or slogan?
Grab like 5 of them. We all know who they are. Just in the room, make them sign NDAs. Hey, here's our slogan. Exactly. How would you make fun of this?
Yes. So, this is great.
We'll see what it is, though.
Yeah. So. And you know what? To circle back to our first question, Zach, maybe when they announce a new one, we'll do an emergency podcast about it.
We could. Yeah, possibly. Did we do an emergency podcast for the City Connects? I don't think so. But
I think we talked about it jokingly via text, and then it was like, wait, are we joking? Do we actually need to do one? All right, no, we're not doing one.
Yeah, that would have been too much.
Yeah. That would have been chuggy. All right.
Yeah.
With that, let's take it to your interview with Mike Wilson, beat writer in Tennessee. Alex, what do we need to know about this? Where did this come from? Is this someone you've known for a while? Break it down for us before we dive in.
No, I met Mike at Tony's press conference. Started following him before that because I remember there was like a crazy few days where we're seeing like Zapruder footage of Tony on the cell phone in the Tennessee dugout.
Yeah.
And he was doing great work, and I met him, and we talked a little bit, but it struck me recently that we have talked about a million things the last few weeks and have done all this Brendan Donovan stuff and all of this Framber Valdez questions are in our mailbox all the time. And starting next Tuesday, the most important thing in the Giants world is that they have a new manager.
Yeah.
And a new coaching staff. But really that they have a new manager and that he is doing something that has never been done before, which was a big deal in October and becomes a big deal again over the next 2 months and over this season. So wanted to talk to Mike and find out more about Tony and his experiences and what we can expect. So a little bit different than what we've done here for the most part, but I hope people enjoy it. And just tease us up for what really will be like this time next week. We will be talking about Tony's first practice, first workout at Scottsdale Stadium and everything that means. So it's a good reminder that is like really the most important part of this offseason.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. With that, here is Alex and Mike Wilson. All right. And I will do an outro. Alex, do you think I can promo that animal shelter event?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right. All right. Thanks for listening. That was Alex with Mike Wilson on today's episode of Giants Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to Giants Talk wherever you listen to your podcast. Give us a glowing review if you like us. Don't bother reviewing us if you don't. We are days away from spring training, pitchers and catchers report. So we'll be here for that. And also, the animal shelter I work at 9 to 5 is having a big event on Saturday. So come on, if you happen to be in the East Bay on Saturday, the 7th, come on out to Joybound for adopt a pet. Alex has a pet from us.
I do. I'm sure some of you hear him occasionally on this. Might have heard him tonight. I don't think he barked tonight, but occasionally barks while we're recording. So yeah, little Robert came from, he was a COVID pup.
That's right. That's right.
I remember going to the front door and he heard it sounded like there was a war going on back there, and it should have been my first sign of.
Yeah, you got him during the roughest part of COVID, where we were doing contactless pet adoptions, which was insane.
And he's a little bit of he's a character, a little crazy.
He's a COVID baby. My sister is a COVID baby. She's crazy too.
In retrospect, we were like, it was like a cartoon going on back there, pulling this guy into his crate.
It really was.
No, we're very happy and have had a great experience with the place that you work. I might stop by. I'm a little worried my wife will just make us get another dog, but
I can put you guys on a do not adopt to these people list. If that would encourage your attendance.
I'll come for the food trucks.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. It's called Unleash the Love. See you there on the 7th if anyone wants to swing by.
All right, Mike Wilson from VolQuest. I know some of you probably follow him just from the October craziness we dealt with here. I first want to start with that. We're watching like social media clips from college kids who are 300 feet away from Tony, trying to capture him in the dugout. You're there in Tennessee. What were those couple days like when he ultimately decided to take the Giants job?
Yeah, so I've covered UT for about 9 years now, and the default state of University of Tennessee is kind of there's always something chaotic going on. Like there's Shiano Sunday a few years ago where they kind of axed a hire. There's always something interesting, but this was remarkably unique, right? You kind of knew through October, like early October, that there was more going on here than probably met the eye, but it kind of came to a head that I think on the 18th, Saturday there. And the next week after that was just absolute mayhem. It's kind of Tony watch is what we joked about it being called, like going over to the ballpark every day. Is he there? Is he not? What's his vibe today? Is he on his phone all the time? Is he not? It was so crazy. And fans showed up, kind of packed the porches there in the left field part of that ballpark to try to keep him. I think the day before he decided to take the job, it was just really bizarre. It was bizarre believing that he probably was going to take this job. And yet here's this coach who's still at work every day because as he kept saying, I haven't made a decision. And he didn't make a final decision until that Wednesday, but those few days in between were really bizarre.
You were at the press conference in San Francisco. You heard Giants people, and I think Zach Manassi and the GM mostly saying like, kind of heard his name in circles the last couple of years, thought this might happen. Did you guys think this would happen at some point? Was there a sense in Tennessee that he might jump to the pros at some point?
No, that didn't really come on the radar until I think it was Andrew Baggerly was the first one that put his name out there with the Athletic, that he was an outside the box candidate. And, anyone who sees a reporter of that connection put someone's name out there in that way, you're like, there's probably more to it than just throwing it out there at that point. Obviously, we knew there were ties to the Giants through the draft, through players in the organization, things of that nature. But they didn't know at the time that Tony's name had been linked to jobs in the past couple off seasons as well. You didn't expect a college sitting coach to jump to the MLB like that. It's never happened. So no, it wasn't really on the radar. Also wasn't a shock, I guess. And you're seeing it happen more and more, obviously, with college assistant coaches jumping into the big leagues, minor leagues in various roles, just with the changing landscape of college baseball. So yeah, I did not expect it. Kind of came out of nowhere there, but I think he was linked to the Braves job too, to some extent. So there were definitely a couple jobs that were looking at Tony this offseason, and he ended up with one of them.
I assume you live in Knoxville. How would you describe Tony's status, maybe before this and since this, in Knoxville? I mean, is he like the mayor of the city? What was the situation there?
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate. And maybe what's most interesting of that stature is, when he got hired here, no one knew the Tennessee baseball coach. Tennessee baseball had kind of been in oblivion for about a decade plus, just about 2005. And he got hired in 2017. He could move around anonymously when he first got hired. Like I knew people would say they saw him running downtown through the middle of the city, not getting stopped, no one knowing who he is. But by the time he left here, yeah, I mean, you're talking about statue, legend, icon status at the University of Tennessee, because he took a program that was in obscurity and at the bottom of the SEC into a national power, winning national championships, going to Omaha. But it also was the way it happened with eyeballs on it and just the way the program conducted itself, the attitude, the chip on the shoulder. So, yeah, man, I mean, people love Tony in Knoxville. I think that love still very much exists. I know there's obviously going to be some hurt there with the fact he left. I think it was probably easier to stomach for a lot of fans that he left for the MLB and not for a different college job. But yeah, I mean, I think that status still exists there of what he did for this program and the way he ignited a fan base was really real. And that doesn't go away just because someone left.
We've heard a lot of reasons why he was successful there and successful at recruiting and building this program. You covered the whole thing. Why do you think he was so successful?
Man, charisma is part of that. I think he was easy to believe. Like you would catch glimpses of who he probably was on the recruiting trail. And I'm sure, I told a couple of Giants writers before I came out there, if I know one thing about Tony, he's going to win that opening press conference. Like when you talk about someone winning a press conference, Tony Vitello is going to win a press conference. He's going to come off well, He's polished. He's so smart with how he handles things. He's going to dog himself, pretend he's not the smartest person in the room, but he probably is. My understanding was he was an aggressively good student through high school and college. He is one of a kind, was my experience with him. And I think that showed up in the recruiting trail. The personality, the vibrance, I think the ability to make people believe in him and what he was telling them was very real. Because when people were coming to Tennessee as recruits in his first few years, they weren't coming for a program. They were coming for Tony and a vision of a program, because the facilities were probably at the bottom of the league. They brought recruits in, not the front of the ballpark, but inside entrances, because the ballpark just wasn't fit for it at that point. And Tony was the one selling it. I think you knew he could walk into a living room and sell a vision. And Drew Gilbert is a prime example of that. He was probably the first high profile recruit to fully buy in, and that changed the Tennessee program in a lot of ways. So yeah, man, he knows how to sell it. He knows how to get it done. And it's all from that personality. And I think loyalty, vibrancy, but authenticity below all of it as well.
Is there a playing style that his Tennessee teams had? Like we know part of it here is like, get him to be better defensively, run the bases a little bit better, do the little things better. But was there something when you look at his teams, whether it was he likes power or like running, or was there something that stood out?
Power. So when Tony was hired, SEC baseball is won by power, arms, power bats. It's power. Tennessee lacked that in spades. And Tony went out and recruited power arms, power bats. That's why you've seen the volume of draft guys go out the way that they have, because that's who they brought in, because that's what typically leads to the pros, velocity, power, good batting average, all the things that guys do well. He went out and brought those things in. I think the thing that stands out most about Tony teams is attitude. Again, you guys saw Drew Gilbert last year and what he brought to the clubhouse. Drew Gilbert is a right arm of Tony Vitello in a lot of ways. They got along so well because they're cut from similar cloth. Insanely competitive, and that rubs off on a team. I thought the way that Tony put his personality into a team is what led to a lot of the success. It was so much I'm going to war for you, that then the players respond and go to war for him. And I know that's more of a college vibe than necessarily a pro vibe, but I do think he's going to bring an edge and an attitude and a different competitive style of go in there and ruffle some feathers, not be afraid to stick it to someone. And that's what really made him successful at Tennessee. And, it's not the exact same, but when you're going up against a power like the Dodgers, having a little bit of, we're going to come in there and mess you up, can go a long way. And that's what he experienced at Tennessee in trying to beat some of the powers in the SEC as well.
This is maybe a difficult one to answer, because I know a lot of colleges just like, you have more talent than the other side. You recruited better than the other side. Do you have a sense of like his in-game like strengths and weaknesses? I think of it mostly because the weakness of this Giants team is their bullpen. And we're like, how's Tony going to be managing a big league bullpen? How's he going to be with platoons? They signed Luis Arias, who's a bad defender. Is he going to be making late game defensive switches? What kind of in-game manager did you see?
Yeah, to kind of hybrid this question with the last one too, I think that's why like Ron Washington was such an important hire, because also when you talk about Tony's style, it is development. I mean, I've seen enough of their fall practices and scrimmages through the years. He hones in on fundamentals, details, fine-tuned stuff. I mean, they're situational warm-ups. I mean, it's not the stuff I guess you'd expect to necessarily see throughout a big league season, but the way he hammered players on those things and the fine-tuned details also helped make them successful. And I, Buster Posey and Zach talked about that. I think at the introductory presser there was Tony does want to teach baseball. And I think he's sold them on that's lacking at the professional level right now and wants to go and do that. But to answer your question on in-game, I think if Tennessee fans disliked one thing, it was bullpen management. Between him and Frank Anderson. Sometimes I think that frustrated fans. But so much of bullpen management is how it turns out, right? Yeah. Like you might have actually made the right decision, but it went against you. And so sometimes it went against him. And I think that got held against Tony. But yeah, I think that was probably one thing that fans did dislike. But I'll tell you this, 2021, 2022, he had this golden touch where it felt like he put in a hitter in a pinch hit situation. That guy came up big. The volume of walk-off wins they had in those two seasons was absurd, especially 2021. I mean, you've probably seen that Drew Gilbert homer from Wright
Yeah.
State. That was a summation of the season. Like, I think they had 7 or 8 walk-off wins that season. So he had a magic touch at a point with pinch hitters as well. So he's going to do some good for you there, I'd say.
I think every fan everywhere gets mad at bullpen management, so he'll just have to deal with that. You mentioned Drew a few times now. I wanted to ask you about him. He burst on the scene here last year, and we're just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. You covered his career. He's very close to Tony. Was it like this at Tennessee? And what was the experience being in Knoxville and being Drew Gilbert become a Giant and, show up on Pat McAfee and show up on SportsCenter and biting Robbie Ray's sleeve and things like that?
Yeah. So I knew Gilbert had signed with Tennessee before that 2019 season. So that fall, one of the coaches said, "Yo, you got to come over and see this kid." And at this point, he's a two-way guy. And I think he might have been more of a pitcher at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So one of their principles is the pitcher backs up first. So, runners running down the line, pitcher comes right behind them and cuts up the line to back it up. And so I'm sitting on the first baseline, and Drew runs over there, and I can hear him going, "Gotta get there, gotta get there, gotta get there, gotta get there." Like just screaming at himself as he's sprinting over there. And I was like, wow, this kid is different. And that was the way it stayed. I mean, his whole career was different. Man, just the energy, the attitude. Tony had a lot of first rounders, a lot of talent here. That's the guy who changed the program. Like I kind of said earlier, like he set a competitive tone and attitude that really resonated with who Tony was, but also went throughout the whole locker room, the culture. Got a little carried away at points. That ejection in 2022 was not great. But that's the competitive fire. And you took those chances with Drew Gilbert because of what he instilled in his teammates. He made everyone around him better and play harder. And it's no wonder that Tennessee won the way they did with him. The antics are funny. It's a reflection of the competitiveness, but I'm sure you've been around him enough. He's also probably the nicest kid in the world.
Yeah.
Like just supremely always nice, kind, thoughtful. Anytime I had a one-on-one with him, it was always a really good conversation. Polite, nice, Midwest Minnesota kid. But yes, it was always funny, I guess, seeing the dichotomy between the lines Drew Gilbert and the outside the lines Drew Gilbert. But yeah, he's a guy that's gonna make you play harder, and he's gonna bring a culture in there. And I think it's different the major league level to be that way, but there's positives that can be garnered from it as well. And I think from the outside looking in, it seemed like that happened late last season a little bit.
A couple other guys I want to ask you about. You mentioned Frank Anderson, the pitching coach. Quentin Eberhardt was, I think, in charge of strength and conditioning at Tennessee. He's over here now. What do you know about those two guys, and why do you think they were the ones to join Tony in San Francisco?
Yeah, if you'd asked me 2 people off the jump from the staff that would join him, it would be those 2. When Tony got hired at Tennessee, part of his pitch to Tennessee, he'd never been a head coach before at that point. Part of his pitch was, I'm bringing Frank Anderson with me, who'd been a coach at Oklahoma State, won a lot, veteran in the game. So put a guy who's got experience next to him. Frank is as good as it gets at the college level in development. The number of MLB draft picks speaks for itself. It's in the 40s, I believe. Huge volume of first round picks. Obviously, Liam Doyle was out in that mix last year. Development. That's what Frank Anderson's known for. I don't know if the Giants have announced his title or his role.
We don't have a coaching staff yet, so
yeah, I imagine it'll be very heavily on pitching development.
Yeah,
or director of pitching, something like that, where he's going to be focused on development. That's his strength, 1,000% development. Quentin Eberhardt, strength coach here. The power numbers that Tennessee's had the past few years are ridiculous. They fell just shy of LSU's NCAA record for homers in the 2024 season, 184. Record's 188, but they've hit more than 100 homers routinely the last few years. Like the Tennessee record book for power numbers is all the past few years. Those guys have been beasts, and Q is a big reason for that. He's worked with the Cubs, has MLB experience. He's a minor league coach before that, but he's Tony's a right-hand guy. That's the guy that he relied on to instill a discipline, instill a culture, and he wasn't here in 2022. And I think there's some people around this program that argue Tennessee didn't go to the College World Series that year because Q wasn't here, and there wasn't that discipline that there had been in some other years because of that relationship between Tony and Q, where Q can be the bad cop guy and Tony can maintain the good guy status quo. So that's a huge hire. I think Q's phenomenal. I think the gains, when you talk about velocity upticks, power number upticks, I mean, Gavin Keelan was a guy who wasn't really known for power before he came to Tennessee, more of a hit tool guy than a power guy, but he flashed a lot of power here. He came in here and did that. So I think you're going to see him affect the whole organization, because I believe he'll have a role overseeing everything,
Yeah.
more so than just the major league side.
Yeah.
So you're going to see guys get stronger, get more powerful, and it's going to be impressive to watch, I think.
I haven't covered college baseball since UC Santa Barbara, like 14, 15 years ago, whenever, how long it was. So I haven't watched much college baseball. I imagine now I'm going to be just like kind of keeping an eye on Tennessee from afar because Tony built that team. Are they going to be good? Or I know they kept their new coach is an internal guy. Is he going to be happy with what he sees from across the country?
He should be. I mean, he obviously helped recruit and build so much of this roster. There's a ton of pro talent on it still. I think, the top tier pro talents on the younger end of it. They're still going to have some top 100 type pick guys this year. That'll be, I'm sure Tony will keep an eye on. Very curious to see if there's another draft pipeline situation going on here. Roster's well built. Josh Elander became the head coach, who was Tony's hitting coach and associate head coach over the past 8 years. When you talk about power numbers too here, that's a guy who played a massive role in that. Worked under Tony at Arkansas, played at TCU. Well-built roster. And I'm sure Tony's going to keep an eye on it, even as his schedule is a little bit more chaotic than what he experienced at the college baseball level.
All right, my last thing here, I'm checking your recent tweets, and you're writing about a guy who's getting $2 million, I think, to stay and be quarterback at Tennessee. How much has changed? This is not a Tony question. This is a college sports question. How much has changed in the last 5 years that your off seasons now are spent dealing with NIL and guys leaving and coming and all that?
I can't even spell the word off season anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. It's so different. And it's the transfer portal too, as much as anything. July used to be the slowest month of the year covering SEC sports because there was nothing going on. And now that's baseball transfer portal. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, every team had 1 to 2 transfers. They have to sit out a year typically. So different. And now you're talking about salaries, NIL, rev share, all those different things, lawsuits. I joked with a lawyer friend last night that I'm starting my second year of law school with the volume of legal documents I've read the past couple of years. So it's chaotic. It's different. It's unique. I think, referenced this earlier a little bit. I think all that stuff probably contributes to some extent to why so many college baseball coaches are taking minor league pitching coordinator, AA pitching coach, like those sort of roles, just because it gets away from that craziness, because it is a constant roster management world now where you're tending to a roster throughout the season. You're building it again in the off season. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
All right, Mike, it was really fun reading from afar in October. Even me, I'm sitting here trying to figure out, honestly, almost nobody I knew in the industry knew Tony. So we're trying to figure out who this guy is, and reading a lot of your stories and the features you've written over the years. Thank you for doing this. And I think for Giants fans who want to follow Tony's old program, it's at by Mike Wilson on Twitter. And you're still very busy there. So we'll follow from afar. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.